Is it realistic for singles to refrain from sex when in a committed relationship?
Okay, let's keep it all the way real right now. So I think it is possible, but it's really important for you to have boundaries in place. You know, several years ago, before I was married, I was in relationships and I dated different men. It was really important to have those boundaries in place, like not being over there late or not being at their place at a certain time, or certain things like get a little steamy and hot. Like, you have to pump the brakes, because if you don't and you don't have those boundaries in place, you're doomed to fall into temptation. And one of my mentors one time told me, she said, Sydney, you have to catch the little foxes before they spoil the vine. So I think it's really important, if you're single, is that you have to look at your situation, look at how you're putting yourself in certain predicaments and certain things, so you don't fall into that temptation. Because I know a lot of Christian women that, they're dating, they're single, but they are falling into sex because they're not putting those boundaries in place.
Well, that's it. The question is it realistic? So is your viewpoint realistic in the world?
It depends on realistic, it can be. I think it's just up to that person. Every person has to be determined, not just the woman, but the man as well, that, hey, we're not going to do this. We're not going to have sex. You have to make a mark and be clear and stand on it.
Oh my gosh, so
I do not think it's realistic. But the right thing is rarely easy or realistic.
That's right.
So you have to know you're going against the flow, that you're doing something that is countercultural, that this isn't going to be easy. If you go into it thinking, I got this isn't going to be a problem for me, that's when you get caught up in temptation. So I don't think it's super realistic, but it's the right thing to do. And I can do all things through Christ, which strengthens me.
That's right. But people that are watching us are probably going, yeah. What do you think, Roxy?
Oh, gosh, she did. I was looking at Amy. I wasn't even looking at you. I'm going to bring back an old word. I did unreasonableness before reasonableness.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did.
Okay, I'm going to bring back the word I think she's talking about. Prudence. Wisdom with caution. Plan. Think about it. Think about your future. What are your goals? Is this a goal to hop in bed? No, we know people do it. It's done. It's been done in the Bible. But you've got to decide what's your standard. And like Sydney said, stick to the standard. But this old word has to have some new meaning, that we proceed with caution. It's not just in sex, it's in food, it's in finances. It's satisfy yourself today.
Right.
You deserve it. What do you deserve? No. You got to look ahead to your future and see how this fits in your plan.
Oh, I like
Nice.
this. I like this. But you could answer that, but you could also answer this for me, because it ties in. Yeah. The second question is, why do Christians often tend to hesitate when talking about sex as if sex is forbidden? So is it forbidden in the single world? And talk to me.
Come on, is sex, like, God created sex. Is he not the coolest? Say, thank you, Lord, for creating it. In the context of marriage and a covenant relationship. Outside of those boundaries, there's danger, there's hurt, there's harm. Should we refrain? Like the question before, can you refrain? What do you do when your husband is ill for a season? What do you do if your husband's deployed for a season? What do you do if life happens? Can you not control yourself? You can control yourself. We have that fruit of self-control, but it's uncomfortable for Christians to talk about sex because it is an uncomfortable topic. But the world is driving the narrative of sex and telling us what it looks like instead of the believers. There's other sexual abuse, there's sexual harassment, there's sex in marriage, there's sexual immorality. There's a lot to talk about on the subject of sex, and the Bible literally has all of the answers. So I think that we should be the ones that are pushing and driving the narrative.
The Bible literally has a book in it that is about sex and intimacy.
Yeah.
And the Song of Solomon, it's right there. It's laid out. I think that the more we make it a taboo subject in the church and in the Christian world, the less accurate information you get, the more you struggle, and you feel like you can't talk to someone about it. And it has been traditionally a taboo subject. I grew up in those youth group days where it was, the purity rings and all of that, and that there was depth to any of the discussions. It was just like, put the ring on, sign the thing, don't do it, sex is bad, and it created this stigma. So I just think God made sex. Kids, our children need to really, they should not be surprised their parents are having sex.
Yeah.
That's how I feel.
No way. No way. You can't even think about that. I cannot. I'm sorry.
You don't think about it. But
My mom and dad, I don't know how they got 5 children, and I don't even know.
I can relate to like what you're saying is because like I grew up in that, I didn't grow up in a traditional Christian home, but I am appreciative. My mom brought me to my church, Crossroads United Methodist Church, and we had the silver ring thing, and I took the pledge, and I was able to understand that. But coming to college, I went to Temple University. I didn't go to a Christian college, and I learned everything about sex. I learned everything about sex from my friends. I remember even my first day, like when we had our freshman orientation, and all the girls went around, and we're all 18. Everybody's like, "Who's had sex before?" Every hand went up except mine, and that was a reality for me to be like, oh my goodness, this is a real deal. This is a real thing. And so just like what you're saying, and you were saying too, Amy, the world teaches about sex, but it's so uncomfortable with Christians. But I'm thankful that I actually went to a church where the pastor in Philadelphia knew he had to talk about it. So we had sermons about sex, and he went to the word and said, this is how it looks like. This is what it's supposed to look like in marriage. And it was awesome.
Well, that's good, but I'm moving to the next question. For sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, Roxy, right. Okay,
That was all good.
This is all good. Your girls are so good.